There's nothing worse than a YouTube video that's just someone yucking someone else's yum. But that's not gonna stop me. Look, I'm not saying that Yujiro being added to Tekken didn't throw me for a loop in a good way, especially because he's quite an oddball pick when everyone's been asking for Tifa. I'm just kinda tired of it. Fighting games sell based on franchise. We just kinda have to admit it. Street Fighter can be argued for art, and we'll have that group circle jerk one day. However, if a game doesn't put a brand in front of its set of mechanics, there seems to be no chance of it going far. What about Skullgirls? Okay, what about Skullgirls? It's been 14 years, and since then, very few games that weren't already part of an established series or a game tied to an existing franchise have released. You got Rumbleverse. Well, not anymore. You got ARMS. You got DNF Duel. You got ARMS. So look, I get it. It's a genre where Funko Pops are handled with care, and the most salient investment portfolio at your local is built up of Luffy trading cards. That's harsh. But please stop thinking of trading cards as an alternative for a pension, I'm begging you. It's not like I'm immune to this franchise soy jack either. I'll get hyped for the Avatar fighting game even though I haven't watched it. Why not? Recently though, I can't shake the unmistakable feeling of a stale and sometimes moldy cheeseburger that a guest character leaves in my mouth. Probably because this isn't actually a problem with fighting games in specific. Around the 2000s, and perhaps more accurately the early 2010s, we saw the franchisation of everything. Games and movies had tried something new and original a couple of years prior, but an economic crisis put financial security first before financial growth in the world of creative product. If you did well, your team didn't get to make a new idea as your reward, you got to keep your job and do it again. The good part is that, as a strategy, this kept a decent amount of people and studios afloat so that people all over the arts could eat food. The bad part is that it worked a little too well. The franchises did well, and as the secondhand market was getting hurt, in some parts by factors out of the company's control and in some parts because another company was actively trying to kill it, consumers were getting squeezed into more and more familiar purchase habits. It made genuinely new IP even more financially risky, and existing IP even more profitable. And then the Avengers happened. What's messed up is that the Avengers is actually pretty good. It was good for a while. First Guardians of the Galaxy movie was great. It'd be even better if Disney didn't proceed to burst the sewer pipes of my interest by putting out... Oh my god. The Marvel Cinematic Universe basically broke the brain of every executive in every corporation all over the globe. And maybe it broke the mind of the viewer as well, based on how quick everyone is to come whenever a character that they like gets added to a game that they don't. It'd take a couple of years to manifest, but we'd entered the crossover dimension. Every IP was to become the baseline for every other opportunity to sit on top of, and why wouldn't it? Games in specific just kind of naturally evolved into products that exist as services. Now people don't buy a multiplayer game to play for a week, unless it's friend slop. They buy it with the idea that it exists in X amount of time with updates. That every time you come back to it, it should be a little bit different. Hell, this still even happens with some of the friend swap if it sells well enough. The biggest problem in this environment is how do you keep people coming back? How do you get new people to buy in? How do you get those people who are coming back to come back more frequently? You get a thing that somebody's already familiar with and put it inside of a thing that they're also familiar with. If this was 2010, we'd call it a thingception. In the best case scenario, as is the case with a lot of fighting game related crossovers, is this feeling that no game can be separated from the IP that surrounds it. You have to be ready, any day now, for the game that you like designed around square holes, maybe soon having a triangle show up. Because Capcom and SNK came to an agreement that would push both of their products. Wasted character slot is a phrase that I think gets thrown around a little bit too much, but by making Ken a character in your game, it adds to this idea that we've run out of ideas, and that instead of trying to push ideas forward, we're retreading old ground for the sake of a fandom. I didn't think much of Geese and Akuma in Tekken 7 at the time. Now I look back and have to wonder if the characters like that would have ever made it past the design stage if they weren't well-meaning crossovers that might appeal to a new audience. Maybe they would, but at the very least, then they would have become a weird aspect of Tekken, like Azazel. Instead, with a guest character, you get this sense that the game isn't as sharp. It's not that you need to consider these games as art, but it's a dilution of what the game is, a kind of like blur at its edges that makes the game a little bit less unique than everything else around it. In the middle case scenario is a feeling of constant pandering. This has been true for guest characters forever, even when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 inexplicably had Spider-Man. Locked behind a reward for completing the game with a custom character, or just inputting a cheat code, and explicitly advertising Doom Guy does a kickflip feels substantial substantially different though. I understand the irony of being upset about feeling infantilized over advertising for a re-release of a game that I played when I was 3. It's not that I'm being advertised with things that I recognize that annoys me. It's that every attempt at grabbing my attention seems to be the thing you know in a different place. Persistent attempts to bleed the thing that you already know with another thing that you already know gives me the same ick as being surrounded by fandom. None of it's harmful, but every property that gains a large amount of attention seems to exist inside of everything else. Get Lucky was a great song until it became inescapable for 7 months. Remember that? And now A Good Thing has been so overplayed that even 13 years removed from release, I still can't stand the fucker. When something becomes inescapable, it starts to get really grating, and Sal's experience is that it's even a small part of. Now anytime something becomes popular, I'm braced for a crossover that I really didn't want. Yeah, gamble with your friends having the mouthwash and horse was a fun touch, but wait until it's play as Jimbo. And I like Balatro, but I wish it wasn't fucking everywhere. The worst case scenario is this sense that everything's just a little rotten. It's not malicious that every game has a marketing budget, but when it's all in crossovers, it acts as this really potent billboard that flashes in the back of the subconscious. It lights up to say, you're putting money into this consumerist machine that wants to churn product before it's found its purpose. What's frustrating is that entertainment as a business has and always will be a conflict between a suit that wants your money and a creative that wants to do crazy shit. And this just so happens to be the method that they found they can do that within their means. Avatar obviously just has a bunch of wackos working on it that want to give you an insane experience. It's the same with 2XKO, and it's why it's so frustrating to see corporate expectations so high that when they succeed in making an excellent product, they're punished. Not because it didn't succeed, but because it didn't succeed in the way the corporation cared for. It's creative people doing their best within the bounds of their work that will keep them alive. However, when I'm slapped with crossover after crossover, just drowning in franchise fatigue, it becomes harder to see through the aspirations of the corporation and appreciate the work of the creative. And maybe that's another part of the problem. When a guest character is imported over, there's less room for the creative to shine through. It's not about making a new idea interesting, it becomes about adapting already established ideas to someone else's brief. It's creative choices that might genuinely be creative adaptations from someone that comes with the stink of a suit. None of this is new in itself, and it's not even isolated to fighting games. This is a problem of frequency, and the reason that we have a problem with frequency is because it keeps making fucking money. It's also just one part of a larger trend in media that's going to be remembered as a kind of like post-COVID core. A kind of easy, familiar media that's been out so long and cross-contaminated across so many other pieces of media that it's started to mold. As the crossover becomes more and more consistent, this persistent recycling makes for an odor that overwhelms and ultimately makes me care less for the work as a whole. Not enough to throw the whole product away or throw my toys out of the pram, but enough for me to make a big stinky YouTube video about it.